Have you ever noticed how the holiday season seems to amplify everything? Joy feels brighter, but so do feelings of grief and loss. As we approach the week before Christmas and Hanukkah, this time of year stirs up bittersweet memories and a longing for a loved one or what used to be. What if I told you that it's possible to hold space for both, to honor what's tender while still inviting light and love into this special time of year? Welcome to Pleasure in the Pause, a podcast dedicated to empowering midlife women to connect to their bodies, pleasure and power, and perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. I am your host, Gabriella Espinosa, women's health and sexual wellness coach, and it is my pleasure to be here with you. The holiday season is often described as a time of joy and togetherness. But for many, it's also a time that stirs up bittersweet emotions, memories, and the complexities of grief. Today, we're exploring how to navigate those tender feelings while also finding moments of light, joy, and renewal. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce today's guest, Kelley Workman. Kelley is a grief facilitator and an inspiring powerhouse of positivity. As an integrated nutrition health coach, personal trainer, speaker, and mom of 6, she wears many hats. But one of the most beautiful things about Kelley is the way she lights up every room she enters. Her energy and outlook are nothing short of uplifting. Kelley's journey has been one of incredible resilience and love. She shares her personal journey with grief, the lessons she's learned about resilience, and heartfelt advice on navigating the holidays when you're carrying tender emotions. We also dive into her practical and empowering self-care tips, ranging from movement and mindfulness to nutrition and daily rituals that can support your healing and help you rediscover moments of light and peace. Whether you're navigating grief yourself, supporting someone through loss, or simply looking for ways to bring more grace and gratitude into your life this season, this episode is filled with wisdom, compassion, and inspiration. So grab your favorite cozy drink, settle into a comfortable space, and join us for this heartwarming conversation with Kelley Workman. Let's get started. Welcome, Kelley.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I am so thrilled to have you here today. One of the things I love about you is the way you light up every room you enter. It's as if you carry sunshine wherever you go. And during a time like the holidays, which can bring up so many emotions, that kind of light is especially meaningful. Before we dive into our conversation, I'd love to know what's something that's bringing you joy during this season of the holidays. Is there a little tradition or moment that's been filling your heart lately?
One thing that I do every season, like kind of in November as we get into December, is I always plan a huge annual holiday party. The first Saturday of every December, I've had it for the past 15 years. And that brings me so much joy because I get to see friends and family and aunts and uncles and cousins and relatives I haven't seen all year long. They land to Houston, they get a hotel. It's a huge event that we have, 50, 60, 70 people. And that really sets my holidays off on the right foot. I just feel full of joy and happiness connecting with all these people in person, not just on social media, that I haven't got to connect with all year. And I just love it.
Oh, I love that, Kelley. That sense of connection is so heartwarming and so needed to take that break away from social media and really connect with people face to face, heart to heart. I love it. I wanted to move on to our topic for today. Grief is such a personal and profound journey, especially during the holidays when emotions feel even more heightened. I know grief has been a very profound part of your journey, shaping so much of who you are today. Could you share your story with us and how your experience has shaped your relationship with loss, love, and resilience?
Sure, I'm happy to share it. What brought me here makes me so happy to share it because I wouldn't know you if I had not had been on this journey. So in 2015, I was married for about 20 years, mother of 5 children, and my husband at the time was in a car accident and passed away. So, of course, having 5 children and many businesses and everything going on, we sought the help of our family. Of course, different family members helped us, and we moved and started new schools and went to therapy and counseling, all the things that you do. None of that is planned for. And it was so sudden when it happened, it really threw us all into a tailspin. Fast forward about a year after my husband's death, we were going to a place called Bo's Place. And it's a facility here in Houston. It's free of charge. And it's for families suffering a loss, whether it's a spouse or a sibling, etc. And it's completely free of charge. It's amazing. And it really helped my family regroup, to find resilience, to find joy again, to find gratitude for life again, to see for my children, to find the will to move on. Very hard when one moment your dad is there and the next minute he's completely gone and you're 4 years old, you don't understand what happened. And so that fast forwards me to now is I am a grief facilitator at Bo's Place for about the past 10 years. And I've done it year round. Every 9 weeks, we have a new group starting, and I've done it ever since really 2015. And it brings me such joy to pass along this knowledge and this information of how grief is a journey, not a destination. It's going to coexist with our joy and our gratitude throughout our whole life. And the more that I give back by helping others through their terrible journey in the beginning, right? It's very sad and everything that goes along with the grief journey, no matter how the person passed away, it brings me such joy and happiness. It makes me feel so resilient inside to think, oh, I remember where I was back then and where I am almost 15 years later now. It's just a feeling that I can't describe more than just when I give back, you do it and there's no name acknowledgement. There's no nothing. It's just, you're just giving to these people and their heart at the end of our 9 weeks is so uplifted. So it really brings me a lot of joy and happiness and shows me how resilient the human spirit really is.
Such a meaningful way to support others through their own journeys of loss. What are some of the common challenges or themes as a group facilitator that people that work with you are facing, especially during this time of year?
As with anyone that has passed away, you first have to deal with the business of death. And so that is just the ugly truth of when you die, regardless of how the person died. The first few weeks is just the business of death. And then as they get into acknowledging the stages of the grief that they're in and working through them and figuring out how to now live and coexist with this new emotion that they never had before, or they've experienced but didn't get to actually fully experience it. During the holidays, there's so many things that come up for people because there's traditions that they may have had with their loved one. There's memories they would make. Maybe their person was the one that put up the tree or lit the Hanukkah or were responsible for these holiday traditions. And now all of a sudden they feel lost. And through our grief facilitating at Bo's Place and other ones also, we really try to help them find new traditions, different traditions, things that they can incorporate to find joy in their own lives. But it's really difficult, especially during the holidays. All you reminisce about all the things that have come up and the person used to do this or that for me or for the family, or they bought all the gifts or whatever it was that they did. But it's really difficult. The grief is so amplified during the holidays. So it's hard. You have to learn new strategies really to try to cope with it.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to you about those strategies. You mentioned guiding people through the stages of grief. Can you briefly explain for our listeners what those stages are?
So there's 5 stages of grief. And first, you're in denial. After the business of the death, because when someone first dies, even if you're expecting it, you have the business, whether it's at a hospital or in a car accident, all those things have to be taken care of around you. And so you're not really able to start grieving what has just occurred. Then you go through phases of denial. You just can't believe it actually happened, just what the word says. There's no other explanation. You're just in denial. It didn't really happen. You're waiting for the front door to open and for the person to come back. Or for the phone to ring and it's your mom again. You're every day you're waiting on that. You're just in denial it's actually happened. Then you go through anger when you kind of accept the denial that now you're angry that you realize it actually happened. Like you can't deny it anymore. So the anger, and it manifests itself in many ways, from sleeping all the time and get really depressed, or overeating or undereating, or hitting the walls. And it can go through many stages of anger, and anger can last for a long time. Then you have the bargaining stage. You wish that, it was you and not them. Should have been this person, or this person was bad. My person was so good. You're bargaining. Again, you believe it and you're not in denial anymore, but you're just bargaining, wishing that you could have one more day, one more time. Go through kind of a depression or accepting the reality of the death, and then the acceptance of the death. And when I say the word acceptance, it's not that the person's died, I can move on now. It's just accepting that this is your new normal, that your grief and your joy, your grief and your sadness. Your grief is always with you now. We liken it like a piece of a house. Every house has a room in it. One of those rooms is grief for you. One of those rooms could be you're a mom. One of those rooms could be a sad. Your room has many doors, and different doors open at different times. So it's learning the acceptance of how to coexist with your grief and not let it overtake you.
Wow, that's so helpful, the way that you describe it. And so you've named all five, is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. And so how do you guide them in navigating their grief through these stages while finding moments of hope and healing?
Well, for instance, every week we have a topic. And when you're first dealing with a lot of grief, and depending on how far the death has been since you started a group, let's say, or it's more recently, it really depends on the people take it. You first, acknowledge, how did you get here? What brought you into this grief session? Was it your person? How did it get here? And tell us about your person. We even ask participants sometimes to hold up pictures and have momentums and tell us about your person, not how they died necessarily, but what was about them? Did they like baseball games? Did they love to eat spaghetti? What were the things about the person that you remember, to try to not change their mindset, but to help them remember some of the positive things about their person? Because in the beginning, the denial is so real that they can't see past that. The person loved baseball, it's baseball season. The beginning of it is so heavy. So just in the beginning, tell us a little bit about your person. Let them say it in their own words. Most of the time, 99% of the time, they're crying through the words, which is completely fine and normal. And then we go on to different, how do we honor the person? Not during the holidays. It could be honor their birthday. A lot of people, when they pass away, then they have a birthday the next month or two, right? And the person doesn't know, what do I do now? The person's not here anymore. Or do I talk about it? Do I not? So just honoring your person. And most people, even one person or two people, and sometimes grief will be stored up. You may have lost someone years ago that you really didn't get to grieve properly. So then now this new person has passed away, and now you're re-grieving all of the things from the past that never got to come out because you didn't have accessibility to grief counseling or whatever, or you just stuffed it down because it wasn't talked about. Also, different ways of remembering the good times. We do memory boxes, which is like an activity. You write down things that you remember of the person. For instance, my husband that passed away, my daughter, when she was 4, when he died, they would always eat Cheetos on the bed. Okay. So one of her memories of her dad is eating Cheetos on the bed, watching cartoons. So in my memory box at the time, I'd written down, Autumn loved to eat Cheetos with dad, right? And put it in the box, because little things like that, they're grieving so heavy, but those things they remember then, and you don't want to forget them. So then you go through this memory box year after year, and they're adding things to it as they remember, or a friend will tell a story of their person. They can jot that down just on a scratch paper and put it in their box or their jar. And then each year, maybe on the person's birthday or the anniversary of their death, or whatever mark they want to use, they can go back and look at all these amazing memories they have of their person. Because for us, our life keeps moving forward. We don't want to lose those memories, even the little ones that someone has that we don't even know about. So there's lots of ways like that to help reframe and regroup your thinking during that process.
That's so beautiful. And so do you encourage people to use, for example, a memory box as a way to celebrate and remember their loved one during the holidays? Are there other ways that you encourage people to remember and honor their loved one during this time?
During the holidays, it's tricky because the holidays, your grief is so amplified. You've got social pressures. You're supposed to do this. Your kids have a play, or whatever your situation is. But really inside, you just feel like going to sleep and you're like, I just don't want to talk to anyone. So it's really hard. So we do encourage, like during the holidays, find something that you may enjoy and take maybe the memory of the person with you. Maybe you used to love to go look at Christmas lights. So maybe you take some friends and you guys go drive around and look at lights. Maybe you're planning a trip. Maybe go ahead and still go on that trip. Plan that trip with a friend or someone else that's close to you that knows your situation. There's ways that you can plant trees or things of that nature. You can name a star for the person. There's all kinds of traditions that you can start that maybe you never had with your person before either, that will help you connect with them, but also starting your own holiday journeys. And surrounding yourself with friends that understand. A lot of time in grief, the grief journey, it's sad because you lose a lot of friends, and not because you weren't friendly or your friends weren't friendly, but it's very common because your friends don't know what to say to you any longer. And you don't really know what to say to them. You're in so much pain, you don't know. And so people kind of separate, and children especially feel like, oh, that person's dad died. I don't want to be around them. I don't want my dad to die. This kind of thinking, even though it's not rational, the people that are afraid of death, they don't talk about it as much because everyone's afraid. They don't want to, it's too unknown. It's so final. And so there's a lot of friends. So you might make new friends, new groups, or maybe you go volunteer somewhere you never volunteered before or something new. And you meet new people there that don't know you. They don't know your journey, and you can start new friendships that way. So there's a lot of things during the holiday season that are accessible that you just got to think outside the box to do them.
Yeah, when you mention sort of those friendships stepping away, that's adds another layer of loss, which can also be difficult. How do you encourage people to embrace the full range of their feelings during this time? So there's the loss for their loved one. There may be loss of just changing situations or friendships. What are some tips or advice that you can give our listeners who are dealing with that right now? How can they embrace the full range of their feelings?
The thing is just for sure to create a space that you can honor your feelings. In our grief groups, the very first week, the first thing we do is we get sticky notes and we write on there, I give myself permission to, and we let them write as many as they want. You give it to cry, to feel sad, to feel happy, to sleep all day, whatever you want. Giving yourself permission to be vulnerable and to feel in that emotion is what we need to do when we're grieving. At our grief groups, this sounds funny probably to your listeners, but we don't have a lot of tissues around in our rooms because we're coached not to give someone a box of tissue when they're crying, to let them cry. If they want the tissue to stop the crying, they will grab for the tissue themselves because they need to let that out, and you need to have a space where you can do that. Honoring your emotions, honor your feelings during these times. You want to go outside for a walk, go for a walk. You don't, you want to sit in, that's fine. You want to go walk in your grass with no shoes on and scream at the world, go do that too. Whatever you want to do to honor your feelings and your emotions, because during the holidays, there's so much pressure to perform, so much social pressure also to perform and to be in the right headspace. And people will say, oh, it's been 2 months, it's been 3 months, or, oh, I forgot, you're still dealing with that. If you've not experienced a loss, significant loss, or a grandparent loss, or a child loss, that grief doesn't ever end. So it's difficult to sit with it. But we encourage everyone, sit with it, write down what you're feeling. We always encourage people to journal, to reframe, letting go of your perfect holiday, and journal what you want. What do you expect? If you don't know what you want, write down, I don't know what I want today. Maybe the next day's journal will come back and you'll find, oh, I want to get up and go for a walk today. Every day might be different, just to get your feelings out on paper or out loud in your shower, in your car while you're driving, sing a big song, whatever it is for you, but let it out. Don't feel like you have to put on a face for someone. Take your mask off and be vulnerable, and find those people that you can do it with. And also say to remember that if you've had a loss, and everyone in your family's experiencing the loss of the person, like in my situation, it was my husband. The way I was grieving was different than my children were grieving, and different than my husband's parents were grieving, right? And his brothers were grieving. Everyone was grieving differently. And so to let go of the expectation that you all should be in the same place, or the grief should be the same, or why are they doing this and I'm not doing that? Just letting go of all the expectation around the grief journey. And in that moment, just recognizing whatever you are doing is what you're supposed to be doing, and what they're doing is what they're supposed to be doing. I find that's probably one of the hardest things, especially during the holidays, for people to understand, is that just because your brother or sister aren't grieving the person the same way you are does not mean it's wrong. You're wrong or they're wrong. There is no right way to do it.
Yes, everyone has their own unique journey through grief. And you speak about this pressure, right, to perform, or I guess to be happy, or to pretend that you're joyous, because that's what the holidays are all about. How can someone begin to rediscover just small, meaningful moments that light them up or bring them joy in the midst of grief or this difficult time?
Yeah, we do a lot, like I said before, a lot of journaling, but a lot of new traditions or new things that you can start to help you find joy. And the best one that I always tell people when they ask me is some kind of volunteering. And when I say the word, I don't mean you go out and spend a bunch of money or you go out and make a big to-do of it. Find something that's small and that no one knows you. And you just go there and you show up and you do this task, whether it's for 1 hour or 4 hours, whatever it is, you just go and do this. And I have never had anyone that's come back to me and said, oh, I regret so much doing that. Oh, I hated packing packages for the military. Oh, I didn't love it. Every single person loves it every single time, because I truly believe that when you leave your own problems back here and you're helping someone that is having equal or worse or less problems as you, the feeling of gratitude for your own existence and for the person that maybe you have lost at this time is amplified times 10. You forget for that moment about how hurt you are, how sad you are, and those feelings, because you're helping someone else that you see they're struggling. It's just my most favorite way for people to get out, because sometimes hosting a party or some kind of gathering, that could be overwhelming too, being around people that, again, you have this expectation to perform. You need to wear this mask on your face. Everyone thinks that you're happy and, hey, you're okay, but really inside you're not okay. So volunteering is the way that you can get out. Maybe you shed a tear while you're volunteering. They're not going to judge you. No one knows you. They don't know anything about what's going on. So getting out with people that don't know your situation, that are not familiar with you, really is freeing and allows you to give back to others at a time when you're really suffering, really helps lighten your burden.
That is such a beautiful and meaningful way to, for that moment, just come into deep presence with someone else and their difficulty and their challenge or their own suffering. I'd love to probably come up with a list of organizations or opportunities for people to volunteer during this time. Can you name a couple of ones that are just off the top of your head that are more available during the holidays?
Yes, I always participate in one. It's Toys for Tots Toys Drive, for instance. But there's all kinds of things surrounding families and children, right, during the holidays. Many ways to participate. You can call your local women's shelter, right? Local shelter in general, but if we're in a women's group here, so we'll look at women's shelter also. They always have programs where you can either go in and help serve food. Maybe they need different bedding, things made. Need gifts for children. They need supplies. Maybe women need help with certain things with their children, reading books to their children at the shelter. All different ways, very quickly and simply. Everyone always needs help in those realms. Of course, there's your typical food pantries, and all those are all very good things to do. They usually have a lot of volunteers at those kinds of places, to be honest, because they're so well known. So I always say, seek out the women's shelter or homeless shelter in your area. Call them. They always have a job for you to do, and you can do it the very next day almost. Like, that's how much opportunity is out there to do something. Also, at any elementary school. Now, I know a lot of people are either likes kids or don't want to be around the little kids or whatever, but elementary schools are an amazing way to read to children in underprivileged neighborhoods. They have a program called VIPS. It's volunteers. You get certified to do it. It takes 2 seconds. You show your ID and do all these things. And then you go in maybe like once a week and read in the library to kids. Let me just tell you the overwhelming joy of seeing these underprivileged children asking you questions and reading to them. They don't have that opportunity at home always because both parents are working and only have one parent. That's a great way during the holidays to give back. And they are so full of light and joy at the holidays. It's a beautiful way to do it. And it's a year round you can do it, to be honest.
Oh, I love that. Thanks so much for that. You mentioned this dynamic of maybe friends dropping away. They don't know how to interact with someone who's grieving. For those supporting a friend or family member who's experiencing grief or loss, what advice would you give to help them offer love and compassion in meaningful ways?
Yeah, that's such a tricky one because everyone wants to help. And what I hear a lot from most participants over my time of doing this and my own journey too is just be there. If you're at a holiday gathering, or maybe they have little kids, so bring some food to the person's house, something that's not perishable, right? Something that maybe doesn't have any allergies to it. Or the friend wants to just talk and she's just crying and talking, or he's crying and talking. Just allow that to happen. Nothing you can say or do is going to bring the person back.
Mhm.
I've yet to hear anyone tell me that it's helpful to say, oh, they're in a better place or it's a better situation for them. That is absolutely just not helpful in general. It's never been helpful because the better place, of course, is always if they're with you, no matter how the person passed away. Even when they're in the hospital terminally ill, you still want one more day with that person, right? So more than anything, for people just to be there and talk to them, let them cry, maybe go and help them clean up their house. If maybe they're napping and you're friendly enough with them, go do some laundry for that person or whatever that you know is getting behind. Because when that person, especially during the holidays, is dealing with the grief, everything in their life is behind. Everything in their life is chaotic. Nothing is in order. They're not going to ask you to do it. They're probably going to say, no, I got it. You just have to go and do it and do the opportunity that you have to serve and walk away. But mainly just to let them express their feelings and just, it may be hard for you to hear also because I know in the beginnings of my own grief journey, I probably cried and said a lot of things and I sounded probably pretty crazy there for a while. It was really difficult. But the thing is that just being able to get it out and not be judged and letting it go is just so important to your grief journey and building your resilience, holidays or anytime.
Thank you so much for that. We all can be that friend, I think. We can all just lend an ear and just create space for another person to express their grief without needing to fix them in any way. I think it's such an important gift to offer a friend. I wanted to move on to some advice. You are a nutrition coach. You are a fitness and strength training coach. You're a yoga teacher. You're all the things, health and wellness. I know that nutrition plays such a big role in our emotional and physical well-being. This can go to the wayside when we're grieving, right? What are some simple ways people can nurture themselves through food or movement to create a sense of comfort and balance during this time, especially during the holidays? Because we have the sense of, we should all be indulging in all this wonderful food, but then at the same time, we may not be nourishing ourselves enough. What can we do if we're grieving and trying to find some sense of comfort?
It's so hard, Gabriella, because when you're in that journey, depending where you are in that grief journey, the desire to eat is usually not even existent. That's the last thing you're thinking about. So taking your own grief and trying to do something like that is really hard. My own experience, but also I hear people talk about it all the time. The thing is that hopefully around you, you have a support system of some kind, whether it's siblings or friends, and they will help support you. I say, just try to eat whatever food you can possibly keep down and you can eat. If you're a little bit further along on your journey, just the same as trying to eat nutrient-rich foods and trying to keep the balance of protein and carbohydrates and fats in good check. Not go crazy, not go overwhelmed with, I need to be to this diet or that. Nothing like that. Just trying to actually eat food. Maybe you're not very hungry, you have protein shakes or something like that. Because in the beginning, it's really hard for most people to even think about eating. Most people have the problem of not eating. And so that's where your friend can come in, like we talked about a minute ago, is, that person's whatever just happened to them passed away. So make a casserole that maybe they like, or if they like tacos, bring them some tacos or whatever. Maybe you have a group chat with your friends if you have a friend that has suffered a loss, and maybe a calendar of meals that you can take to their house, maybe for the first couple of weeks, right? And then as it progresses the second month, maybe you only take meals every third day and do things that they would like or that are pretty universally liked around your friend group, because it's really hard to nourish yourself, to be honest, when you're going through it. Just acknowledging that it's hard to do it may be the first step in helping yourself try to eat something or try to drink a protein shake or something like that. And then we talk about journaling and meditation and these kind of things. The best advice I could ever give anyone that I've heard that helps everyone is, if you have a patch of grass in your yard or in your park or whatever, take your shoes off and sit in it, walk in it. That is the best way to really help your breath go back down and your center to come back down. It's just remembering you're still here. You're still alive, and this is grass under your feet. Cold, wet, snow, whatever you got. And just let your bare feet be in that for a while. Because trying to do too much exercise or too much movement, you're already grieving and your whole body is going through this physical change as you're grieving. When actual physical exercise, some people get in and they do a lot, right? They end up getting injured, other things happen. So just getting some mindful movement and mindful breath work and really grounding yourself back to center to help your grief flow through you and out of you is really my best recommendation. And hopefully you've got some friend groups or other people around you that can help. Hey, why don't we go for a walk today? Or I'm coming over for 30 minutes. Let's sit down and take some breath work, or let's do some stretching today. Just something to get back moving. But it'll probably be a lot of crying when you get to that movement part. Typically that's normal in the beginning, just to let all the emotions out when your movement starts to begin again.
You're giving me so many good ideas of how to support friends who may be grieving, like going and taking them just out for a short walk, taking them out to get some fresh air, whether we're in Texas, you and I, Kelley, so we have grass that we can put our feet on and the sun is shining right now. But I know people who are in colder weather, I know how wonderful it feels just to bundle yourself up in some nice warm clothes and just feel the cool air against your skin. But getting outside and being with nature. And I think I would find that so helpful. I would feel that I would be of such service to people just to take them outside, even if it's for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. So that's such great advice. Looking back on your own journey, what lessons about gratitude and resilience do you find yourself leaning onto the most?
If I reflect back on my journey, I was married for 20 years and we were just best friends and partners in business and in life. We had 5 kids, everything we did together. And it never occurred to me once that this would have occurred, right? We weren't in that lifestyle that he had a risky job or something like this. So it took me about 2 weeks after his death. And I don't know what happened. I woke up one day and I just realized, wow, I've got to figure this out. This is the beginning of this new normal for me and this new journey. I had small children. And I think that over the years, seeing my children grow and thrive and no doubt be sad. And we have time still now, graduate high school and getting married, all these things where your other parent is not there. In my situation, it all comes back. The grief comes coming back to everyone in different ways. But the thing is that the resilience that we are still alive and we are here and we can look back on those fond memories that we have of our person or your persons that have passed. And we can look back with love and kindness and joy in the opportunities that we had to be with that person. My resilience too is at the end of the day, none of us are getting out of here alive. Mm-hmm. And the sooner that we accept that fact and we live like that, we live knowing that these are the times we have, whatever these moments are, that's all we have. And to live in that gratitude space and helping others and putting ourselves out there and doing things like that makes us so much more resilient when we recognize in this space of our grief that we are not unique in this situation. And this is not singular to us. Everyone eons before us has gone through these things, and we still have managed as a species to keep evolving. Mm-hmm. So that knowledge and that feeling and watching my own humans I'm responsible for grow up just really builds my resilience and my joy up. It gives me such pleasure in the fact knowing that I had the opportunity to know an amazing person that gave me a lot of life skills. I was 18 when I met him. And I've taken those life skills and just grown upon them times 10. It just makes me have joy and hope in the whole world, just knowing that this is a thing that everyone can accomplish. It's not unique, this resilience after a loss. No doubt it's not great. It's not easy, but there are definitely lifestyle tricks and tips and resilient things and groups you can join and positive outcomes that can come from this. And in the beginning, I would feel guilty saying that. My life is so amazing now. My life is amazing now. It's amazing. My husband had passed away, but my life is amazing. I wish he was here to see it. You know, what has become of all of us because we have continued to thrive and remember him with great gratitude and joy for all that he gave us in the time that he was here.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Any words of encouragement that you'd like to share with someone seeking light during this holiday season?
Yeah, I think my only tips really would be just give yourself the grace to, if you don't want to do something, don't do it. You don't want to go somewhere, don't go. You want to go somewhere and you feel guilty, you shouldn't be happy, just go. No one's watching you. No one that matters to you is going to say anything to you. You just need to go experience. You're still here. And if you want to do something, do it. And if you don't do it. Don't feel the obligation to be on everyone's beck and call. I think it's really hard, depending on who your person is that's passed away, you know, how to cope with everyone's expectations of you. I truly believe expectations are the stealer of joy in every situation. So if you let go of all that, I think you're going to feel much better. And find a good grief group. There's so many out there that are free. A lot of them are on Zoom now that are very effective, and everyone's going through similar situations as you are. And that to me is one of the most helpful ways to process the grief if you're struggling, for sure.
Such great advice. And I'd love to put links to a couple of grief groups that you recommend in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kelley, for being here with us today, sharing your light, sharing your hope with us during this season. I look forward to speaking to you again in the new year. We'll have you back on the show to give some of your lifestyle, nutrition, and health advice for 2025. So thank you so much. So much love to you, Kelley.
Thank you. You too so much. I really appreciate you guys talking about this topic. That's great. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pleasure in the Pause. Want to help me spread more pleasure in the world? Hit the share episode button and send it to a friend or post it on your Instagram stories and tag me, Gabriella Espinosa. And if you really love this podcast, please leave a rating or review, as this helps the show get in front of new listeners. Finally, if you would like to access even more pleasure and stay in touch, sign up for my free pleasure upgrade bundle of powerful mind-body practices by going to pleasureinthepause.com. Remember, your pleasure matters.